So I'm going to be talking to you guys about content, but specifically in relation to engagement. Okay, so it's a challenge for most of us is to be able to create content that's engaging. Okay, so that's what we're talking about today. Okay, so I know that this is one of your favorite things to do in your business, or perhaps not. And, even though you're probably well aware that you should be creating content on a consistent basis, it seems to be one of those big kind of bugbearers where it gets pushed to the bottom of the priority list. Am I right? And, it's one of the most important parts of growing your business. So content is actually at the center, or it should be at the center of your marketing ecosystem. Okay, it's one of the best ways to attract new students into your community or bring new people to your website. And even though we do know this, and especially if you're in my community for some time or you listen to these trainings, I talk about this a lot, right? I talk about why content is so important. So even though we know this, creating that content can be a really huge pain point. So, you're not alone if you're feeling this way. And there's a few reasons why this happens. Okay, so firstly, if you don't have a framework, right? If you don't have a process to create your content, or you don't have a process to repurpose your content in a way that feels easy, then the content creation part can feel hard, right? It can feel hard, it can feel overwhelming, it can feel time consuming. And secondly, you've likely put content out there into the world, like you've likely shared online, on social media and so on. And maybe the response that you've had has been pretty low, maybe it's been non-existent. And then it feels really frustrating because it feels like you've gone to all of that trouble to create your content and it's for nothing, right? So what we need to understand is that it takes time, okay? Building a business takes time, simple as that. And content creation is part of you building your business. So you can't expect to, just share your first ever reel and it's going to go viral. Like, you have to be consistent in how you show up. And it takes testing, right? It takes testing, it takes understanding like what is working and what's resonating with your audience so that you can actually refine that message. So this takes time. It also takes time for you to be able to practice how to create your content and to actually get better at creating your content and being more consistent. Okay, so we need to give ourselves time, right, to create traction. By that I mean engagement with our audience, and we need to be consistent. Okay, so I want you to know that if you keep pushing your content out there and you keep being consistent and you don't give up too soon, like, your efforts won't be wasted. Like, your content will start being seen by the right people, the people that you're trying to reach. Okay, so one of the key things with this, well, there's two really. We need to have a process, right, to make content creation easier. Okay, and I teach this process in my programs, inside our programs. And B, we need to be more strategic. Okay, and so this is what we're going to be talking about today. I'm not just talking about how your audience on social media engages with your content, by liking and commenting and so on. But I'm talking about, when I talk about engagement, I'm talking about them taking some kind of action. Okay, so whether that's replying to an Instagram story or replying to an email that you send out, we're looking at how can we create content that really encourages people and inspires and motivates someone who's consuming that content to take an action. Okay, and of course it could be that we're trying to stop them scrolling and to like your post. It could be that as well. Okay, so that's what we're talking about when we talk about engagement today. If you're just joining, I'm sharing how you can encourage your yoga community to engage with your content. And I'm talking about to encourage them to take some kind of action from the consumption of your content, okay, that you're putting out there. So we're talking about becoming more strategic with the content that we create. And first of all, and this is super important, first of all, you need to know your audience. Okay, I talk about this all the time. Okay, it's so important. Your marketing won't work unless you know who you're speaking to. Okay, your messaging is not going to cut through that, noisy online space that we're in unless it's been written for a specific type of person with a specific desire or need. Okay, so this is really important, guys. This is where having a niche is super important, narrowing in, having a niche. If you don't have a niche right now, come and join me on the 28th of January for a 3-day training, Elevate Online. We're going to be talking about niching. You're going to learn how to do that. One of the things that we're going to be talking about in that training. So go and check that out. And the more you know who you're trying to reach, okay, and by that I mean, you know where they are right now in their yoga journey. You know where they are in their life right now. You know what challenges they're facing and where they want to be in the future. Okay, that's important. And how yoga can help them with that journey. The more you know this, the easier it becomes for you to create your content. Okay, so we need to know, in order for us to create content that's engaging, we need to know who we're creating it for. That's super, super important. It's really the first step. With anything that you do when it comes to marketing, you need to know who you're marketing to. So do your research, guys. Like, take the time to understand, like, why are people attracted to you right now as a teacher and what you have to offer? And then, another kind of element to this, another part of this is you, right? It's your personality, it's your voice. This is what you own. This is your point of difference, let's say. It's like what makes you unique is your personality. And it's important that you really share that. And this takes time, right? This takes time. To feel comfortable online. Again, it's all about practice. It's about showing up, being consistent. The more you do that, the more you feel comfortable, the more you feel like you can show up as your authentic self and share your voice and share your personality. This is super important as well, right? Because, people, when they're on social media, they're going to make judgments about you and your business based on how you engage with them. And so, how you show up in an authentic way. So some simple things here, a little tip is, just know what words work for you, okay? So, don't use slang or any kind of jargon if that doesn't kind of match up with your vibe and your energy that you're sharing online, because all of that matters, right? It does matter. And, most people are going to choose to follow you based on whether your content feels and sounds authentic. Okay, so have a think about this as well. When you're looking at your niche and you're looking at who your audience are, also look at how you're showing up in that space and sharing what your voice is what the look and the kind of feel of your voice that you're putting out there. So those 2 points kind of tie in together, I guess. You knowing your audience and then sharing your personality. Because that's what your audience is really going to connect with. If you really know your audience, then you can solve their problems, okay? You can create educational content around your ideal students' problems or pain points, right? So this is really, this can really work for the content that you share on your website. Right, so the content that you share on your website, for instance, so if you've got a blog, let's say, and you're creating articles, you want to be thinking about, what is your audience searching for in Google, right? What are people searching for online? And generally, people are searching for things that they need help with. So think about your own behavior. Like when you open a tab up, to go onto Google, like what are you typing in? Usually it's because you want to know something or you want help with something. So generally we're looking for answers to problems. So you have an opportunity to show up in those results, okay? And if you know your audience, you need to know your audience, right? You need to know what's making them tick. You need to know what they're going to be searching for. If you don't know what problems they need support with. So if someone clicks on that link on Google and lands on your website to read your article, they've taken an action, right? So this is what I spoke about at the start. We're talking about engagement in terms of actions that people take. And so now they're engaging with your content. And you can make this content more engaging, right? So somebody's on your website, what action do we want them to take now? You can make it more engaging. You can make this content on your website more engaging by creating what's called a content upgrade, okay? Which essentially is a opt-in freebie that sits specifically on that blog page, but it's related to the content on that blog page, the content that they're reading, okay? So maybe, let's say this blog post is about, how to start a meditation practice. And then the content upgrade, the freebie, okay, so we're kind of upgrading the content. That's why it's called that. The content upgrade is a meditation bundle of, maybe it's like a series of 5-minute guided meditations for beginners. So somebody's more likely to take an action, to engage and sign up for that meditation bundle because they've already landed on the article that they're interested in, that they were typing into Google how to start a meditation practice. Okay, so this is where we're really looking at how can we encourage people in our community, in our audience, to take actions and to engage. So this educational content that we're creating for our audience is not just about the website, right? It's also the content that you're, creating on social media should also be educational. Exactly what I'm doing with you guys right now. Also on social media, we need to think about how can we create educational content on social media. And again, be strategic, guys, about what that looks like, okay? What does that look like in our feed? What does educational content look like in our feed? Yes, it can be a video, a live video, super. But, what is more likely to get your audience to engage? A photo of you sharing some tips in the caption, or a carousel post, okay, where your audience can read through the slides, they can flick through the slides, and then they can save that post. That's an action for a later date so that they can come back to those tips that you shared. Like, that's engagement, right? Stopping their scroll. So they're on Instagram, they're scrolling through the feed. They stop the scroll because something catches their eye. A headline on that first slide catches their eye. So they stop to read the slides, and then they're choosing to save it because it was educational. It was solving some kind of problem for them and giving them some kind of, giving them some tips and a quick win. Okay, so really have a think about it. When you're creating your content, what do you need to do in order to make that content more engaging and give people an opportunity to, take some actions? So another way to engage your audience, particularly on social, now we're talking about social, is to ask questions, right? People love, sharing things about themselves. So this works really well inside a Facebook group, yeah, where you can, and you've probably seen these types of posts before. I use them inside our Facebook group, but where you ask a single question. So you just use the words and you have like a colored background, or you can create a poll. Okay, it's another way to really engage your community inside your group. And, as I said, people love to kind of share things about themselves. So maybe you might ask some questions like, when was the last time you got on your mat? Or what's your favorite type of pose? Or even, where do you live? Like, let's see where our community is located. So, you can use these questions to not only engage and encourage them to like share something about themselves, but also to gather data as well. So you can be quite clever about it. Like if you are, wanting to create something, a new offering or create a new piece of content, you can use this as an opportunity to inform what you're developing and to gather some data from your community as well. Stories are really good for that, right? Instagram stories, because in stories, you have access to all the little stickers and the GIFs. And again, these are really nice ways to engage with your audience. If you're not using that, guys, you're missing out on that, because, you need to be specific. You need to be asking people to engage with you, actually. So, in Instagram stories, you can direct people to a website. So that's available to everybody now. You've got the opportunity to add a link in your stories. You can ask them to DM you, and you can pop a little kind of sticker that says DM me in there. And, if they do DM you, or if they comment, on a post that you shared, what do we need to do next? We need to reply, right? We need to reply. And I think, this is something that maybe you're not staying on top of. Are you replying to comments? Are you making sure that you are interacting with people when they actually do take an action? Because this is key. And your audience actually, if they're following you, especially if they're following you for some time and they are starting to engage with your content, they're kind of craving that responsive conversation, right? It's really this kind of interaction that's going to make a difference. So just really engage in conversations. If they actually make the move to do that, they send you a DM, make sure you respond quickly. Like, don't leave it a week. Actually respond within like 24 hours at least, so that you can really start to encourage those conversations. And any kind of engagement that you have in that way on your post is going to actually increase the organic reach for those posts as well. Okay, shared lots already. Another type of content that you can create, or that you can share, is in terms of increasing engagement. Another type of content you can create is content that your audience has created. Okay, so this is a really nice way to recognize your students and community members, particularly those that have been around for a while. They've been there, they've been coming to your classes, they're maybe in your membership. Reshare their content. Reshare it, perhaps it's a video, perhaps it's a reel that they've created of themselves, like on the mat. Share it in your feed, celebrate them, celebrate their wins. So if you do this, they're actually more likely to reshare that content as well. Okay, so that's actually engaging. That's them engaging by sharing, and it's helping you to reach more people. They feel recognized, and therefore they're more likely to continue engaging with your content as well. So you'll see, we're not just talking about getting likes and comments. I'm not just talking about that today. How can you encourage your audience to really engage with your content across all of those different online channels, whether it's your website, your emails, Instagram, YouTube, and so on? And one of the key things, from everything I've mentioned today, is you need to be direct, right? You need to have really clear calls to action about what you want someone to do. Okay, this is really important, that your content always has that. It's that call to action that's actually telling someone to engage with your content. And if we don't do that, it's unlikely that they will. Okay, so I encourage you to test this out. Like, test it out on social media. Also test it out with your emails. Okay, so ask your subscribers to reply back and see what response you get versus when you don't ask them to reply. Yeah. Test that one out, guys. Make it personal, like solve their problem, know them really, really well so that you can do this. Educate and look at how you do that on social media. So that's the carousels, the infographics, the quote images versus, just posting a photo of you. Get on video. like reels, stories, go live, right? This type of content is way more engaging. So we really do need to be doing it. And it means you need to get over yourself, get over the fears of being visible so that you can do that and really connect with people. And then tell people what you want them to do, okay? So this really, you know, especially on video, is going to allow you to really create that trust, which again encourages people to come back and engage with more of your content in the future. So that's a little summary of what I've kind of shared today. But ultimately, you know, your content is what is allowing you to build relationships. And, you know, if you think of any relationship that you have, okay, in your life, what do we want to be? We want to be a good listener. We want to be authentic. We want to be consistent. You know, we want to be there, we want to be asking questions. We want to be present, right? So really just kind of have a think about that when you are spending the time to plan out your content, which you should be. And, you know, remember that these relationships also take time, okay? So don't be disheartened, you know, if your engagement rates don't like immediately jump up overnight. They won't. Like, let's be realistic here. But keep a watchful eye on what is working and what's not working, and don't be afraid to share what worked further down the line. Like, you can reshare content. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be fresh all the time. You can tweak it, you can add something else, reshare it, especially for content that's worked really well in the past. And, you know, most importantly, you know, just remember that this online space that we're in, it's evolving. Like, it's a continually evolving landscape. So you really do need to, you know, keep your eye on the pulse and just like be ready to adapt what you're doing at any time, right? That's super, super important. Okay, my loves, I hope you've enjoyed this today. I hope you've had some takeaways from what I've shared with you today. And, you know, make your content creation a non-negotiable part of building your business. It is a key part of building your business. Like, we can't build a business without creating content, okay? I'm gonna love you and leave you. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please DM me, call to action. Also, go and check out Elevate Online if you are a new yoga teacher. If you're a new yoga teacher and you're starting from zero, or if you've been teaching for some time, but you're yet to make that transition online, I really encourage you to join me in Elevate Online. It's happening the 28th to 30th of January. It's a 3-day training, and it's really for you if you are making the first steps to get yourself online, okay? And we know that online is where it's at right now. So let's do this. Head to the link in the bio. Thank you so much, guys. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you so much for being here. You guys are awesome, and I will see you next week. All right, lots of love. Bye-bye.